The massive alien ships appeared over Earth's major cities without warning. They hung in the sky like dark mountains, blocking the sun and casting long shadows across the land. For 3 days they did nothing. They sent no messages. They made no moves. They simply watched. On the 4th day they finally spoke. "We are the Vex Imperium." The message came through on all frequencies in perfect English. "Our star has died. Our home is gone. We seek shelter." The world's leaders came together faster than they ever had before. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to welcome the aliens. In the end, caution and compassion won. Earth would help these refugees from the stars. Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the front of the medical team at New York Landing Zone Alpha, where the first Vex delegation would touch down. As the head of the United Earth Medical Corps, she had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The aliens might carry diseases humans had never seen. Their biology would be completely different. Everything about them was unknown. "Nervous?" asked her assistant, Dr. Kim. Elena smiled tightly. "Terrified. But someone has to make first contact, and better a doctor than a soldier." The Vex shuttle landed with barely a sound. When the doors opened, Elena got her first look at the aliens. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. Their 4 eyes blinked independently, and their hands had 3 long fingers. They moved with careful precision, as if Earth's gravity was stronger than what they were used to. "Welcome to Earth," Elena said, stepping forward with empty hands held palms up, the universal sign of peace they had agreed upon. The lead Vex copied her gesture. "We thank Earth for its mercy. We have traveled far." That was 3 years ago. Commander Jackson Harris stood on the bridge of the UESC Mercy, watching Mars shrink in the view screen as they headed home to Earth. The medical Saui ship had just finished setting up a new hospital for the mining colony. Now they were bringing medical supplies back to Earth, where the Vex refugees had settled into their new lives. Jackson smiled, thinking of Elena. His wife was probably busy treating both humans and Vex at Boston General Hospital. She had become the leading expert on Vex biology, even learning their language to better understand their medical needs. He couldn't wait to see her again after 3 months away. "Commander," called Lieutenant Chen from Communications. "You need to see this." Jackson turned to look at the screen. The lieutenant's face was pale. "What's wrong?" "Sir, we're picking up emergency broadcasts from Earth. Multiple cities. They're under attack." Jackson felt his blood run cold. "From who?" Chen swallowed hard. "The Vex, sir. They've launched coordinated attacks across the planet." The main screen switched to a newsfeed. Jackson watched in horror as Vex ships fired on civilian targets. But something was wrong. They weren't hitting military bases or government buildings. They targeting hospitals?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The tactical officer nodded grimly. "Every major medical facility on the planet, sir. They're specifically going after medical personnel." Jackson's heart stopped. "Put Boston General on screen now." The image changed to show chaos. Vex soldiers moved through hospital corridors with terrifying efficiency. They weren't killing everyone. They were separating medical staff from patients and executing only the doctors and nurses. Then he saw her. Elena was organizing an evacuation, helping patients into a service elevator. She turned to face a Vex soldier, speaking to it in its own language, probably trying to reason with it. The feed cut to static. "Get that back," Jackson shouted. "I can't, sir," Chen replied. "We've lost the signal." Jackson gripped the command chair so hard his knuckles turned white. "What's the status of Earth's defense?" "Overwhelmed, sir." The Vex hit simultaneously across all continents. They had sleeper ships hidden throughout the solar system. This was planned from the beginning. Bridge fell silent as the crew processed what they were seeing. After 3 years of peaceful cooperation, the Vex had betrayed humanity in the worst possible way. "We've intercepted Vex communications," reported Chen. "They're sharing their strategy openly. They're proud of it." "Let me hear it," ordered Jackson. A harsh Vex voice filled the bridge. Target the healers first. Without them, the humans will weaken and die slowly. They are emotional creatures who value their sick. They will surrender to save them. Those who repair damage are their greatest strength and greatest weakness. The tactical officer's console beeped. Sir, we're receiving a direct communication from a Vex command ship. On screen, Jackson said, his voice dangerously calm. The face of a Vex commander appeared. Unlike the refugees they had first met, this one wore ornate armor and had scars across its face. UESC Mercy, the alien said. I am War Commander Nexus of the Vex Imperium. Your vessel is classified as medical. You will surrender immediately. Your medical personnel will be executed. The rest will be imprisoned. This is mercy by our standards. Jackson stared at the alien. 3 years of friendship, of teaching them about humanity, of helping them build new lives. All of it had been a lie. Why target medical personnel specifically? He asked. The Vex commander's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A gesture Elena had told him was their equivalent of a shrug. It is simple strategy. Your kind values healing above all else. It is your weakness. Remove the healers. Control the population. We studied your wars. You never target medical units, foolish. They are the most valuable tactical targets. One of the junior officers whispered. The Geneva Convention doesn't extend to Orion, I guess. Jackson stood up slowly. Something cold and hard had formed in his chest where his heart used to be. War Commander Nexus, let me be clear about something. Those medical personnel you're targeting, they're not our weakness. They represent the best of us, our compassion, our desire to help others, even aliens who came to us for help. His voice remained steady, but everyone on the bridge could feel the rage building behind it. But make no mistake, humanity didn't survive this long by being only compassionate. The Vex commander tilted his head. Your words are meaningless. You will surrender or be destroyed. No, Jackson said. We won't. He made a cutting motion, and Lieutenant Chen cut the transmission. Jackson turned to his XO. How long until we reach Earth? 16 hours at maximum speed, sir. Make it 12, and get me Stratcom on a secure channel. The executive officer hesitated. Sir, what are you planning? Jackson's eyes were cold as space itself. They've violated every principle of warfare we hold sacred. They've made this personal. He took a deep breath. Get me Stratcom. Authorization code. Grim Reaper. A shocked silence fell over the bridge. Everyone knew what that meant. The Reaper program, the darkest secret humanity had kept from their alien visitors. Are you sure, sir? Asked the XO quietly. Once we deploy them, they targeted Earth's medics. Jackson cut him off. So we're deploying the Reapers. Admiral Li Cheng stood in the dimly lit command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The facility had existed for over a century, surviving wars and disasters that had reshaped the world above. But never in her 20-year career had she thought she would give the order she was about to give. The room fell silent as the members of the United Earth Security Council appeared on screens around her. Their faces showed various stages of shock, anger, and fear as they watched the reports coming in from around the world. The death toll among medical personnel has reached 15,000, reported General Santos, his voice tight with anger. The Vex are systematically executing doctors, nurses, medics, and medical researchers. They're keeping some alive to treat their own wounded, but most are being killed on sight. The Secretary General, a normally calm woman from Kenya, couldn't hide her horror. Why? Why target healers specifically? Admiral Chung gestured to the tactical officer, who brought up an intercepted Vex communication. We've translated their battle plans, Cheng explained. The Vex believe that by eliminating our medical capability, they can control us through fear of injury and disease. It's a strategy they've used on other worlds they've conquered. Other worlds? Someone asked. So this wasn't their first? No, Chung cut in. Intelligence now believes their story about being refugees was a lie. They're conquerors, and we invited them in. The room fell silent again as this sank in. 3 years of helping the Vex settle on Earth, sharing technology and resources with them, all while they planned this betrayal. What are our options? asked the representative from Europe. The tactical officer stepped forward. Conventional military response is proving ineffective. The Vex have deployed jammers preventing precision strikes. They're using our medical personnel as human shields in many locations. Ground forces face 90% casualty rates when attempting to retake hospitals. And that's why you've called this emergency session, said the Secretary General, her eyes fixed on Admiral Cheng. You want to deploy the Reapers? Cheng nodded slowly. The secret that only the highest levels of government knew about was finally going to come to light. I believe we have no choice, she said. Commander Harris of the USC Mercy has already requested authorization. His wife is among the medical personnel taken hostage at Boston General. Most of the council doesn't even know what the Reaper program is, said the American representative. It's time they learned. Admiral Cheng touched a control, and a new image appeared on the main screen. It showed what looked like humans in cryogenic sleep pods. But even frozen, there was something unsettling about them. During the resource wars 30 years ago, when it seemed like humanity might destroy itself, we created a final option, she explained. The Reapers are humans who volunteered to be modified for psychological warfare. Modified how? Asked the Russian representative, leaning forward. A new person stepped into view of the camera, a woman in her 60s with dark skin and close-cropped white hair. Her lab coat bore the insignia of the United Earth Science Division. I'm Dr. Nadine Okoro, she said. I was the lead scientist on the Reaper program. Her voice carried the weight of old regrets. The Reapers were designed to be the ultimate psychological weapon. Their brains were altered to process fear differently than normal humans. They don't feel it themselves, but they project it to others. You mean they scare people? Asked the Chinese representative, sounding unimpressed. Dr. Okoro shook her head. It's much more than that. Their neural patterns destabilize enemy psychology at a fundamental level. They can trigger primal terror in an opponent simply by being near them. Additionally, they have enhanced strength, speed, and stealth capabilities. They were designed to be living weapons. If they're so effective, why haven't we heard of them before? Asked someone. Admiral Cheng answered, because we never deployed them. After they were created, the wars ended, and the ethical concerns about using such weapons became too great. They've remained in cryostasis, orbiting Jupiter on a classified station for 3 decades. The Secretary General frowned. And you're certain nothing else will work? We've tried everything, said General Santos. The Vex were studying us for 3 years. They know our conventional military tactics and have counters for all of them. There's something else you should know, Dr. Okoro added, her voice softer now. I built the Reapers with one key control mechanism. They respond to medical personnel in distress. It's the only emotional connection they retain from their previous lives. They were all once doctors, nurses, or medics themselves who volunteered after losing patients to war. This revelation changed the mood in the room. The Reapers weren't just weapons. They were former healers transformed into something terrible to protect others. If we deploy them now, Dr. Okoro continued, they'll hunt the Vex with single-minded determination until every medic is safe. It's what they were made for. Admiral Cheng surveyed the faces on the screens. We need a decision. The Vex are executing more medical personnel every hour. Once they've eliminated our medical infrastructure, they'll move on to the next phase of their invasion. The vote was called. One by one, the representatives gave their answers. Despite the fear of what they were unleashing, the decision was unanimous. Deploy the Reapers, ordered the Secretary General. May God forgive us for what we've created. Within the hour, 20 cryopods were redirected toward Earth. Inside, each was a nightmare that humanity had created, but prayed never to unleash on the USC Mercy. Commander Jackson Harris received the authorization code. His hands trembled slightly as he entered it into the secure console. Sir, said his XO quietly. Are you sure about this? The Reapers. The stories I've heard. Jackson looked up, his eyes haunted. 3 hours ago, we received Elena's medical ID beacon. It's still active, but moving deeper into Vex territory. They're taking her somewhere. He finished entering the code. If the Reapers can save her, can save any of our medical personnel, then whatever happens next is worth it. The confirmation appeared on screen. Reaper deployment authorized, estimated time to first planetfall 2 hours. Send word to all remaining Earth forces, Jackson ordered. When the Reapers arrive, stay out of their way. They have only one mission: protect medical personnel. Anyone who interferes is considered an enemy. As the message went out, Jackson looked at the last image he had of Elena, a photo taken at their anniversary dinner 3 months ago before he left for Mars. He had promised to keep her safe. Now he was unleashing humanity's darkest weapons to fulfill that promise. They thought targeting medics was our weakness, he whispered. They're about to learn it's the one thing guaranteed to awaken what we keep in the shadows. The first Reaper drop pod entered Earth's atmosphere an hour later, burning bright as a falling star as it headed toward New Delhi General Hospital, where 50 doctors were being held by Vex forces. It was just the beginning. The Vex had no idea what was coming for them. The command center under New Delhi had been hastily set up in an old bunker. Commander Alexei Volkov wiped sweat from his brow as he stared at the screens showing the hospital 3 kilometers away. For 18 hours, the Vex had held the building, executing medical staff every hour to prove they were serious. The Indian military had tried 2 rescue attempts. Both had failed with heavy losses. "Sir," called a young lieutenant, "the Reaper pod has entered the atmosphere. Impact in 40 seconds. Volkov had been briefed about the Reapers only 2 hours ago. He still couldn't quite believe what he had been told. Super soldiers who could project fear? It sounded like something from an old science fiction story. "All units, stand down and pull back to the perimeter," he ordered through his comm. "Do not engage the Reaper. I repeat, do not engage." The black pod crashed through the hospital roof at 0312 local time. The impact was surprisingly quiet. The pod had some kind of braking system that activated just before impact. Then nothing happened. The Vex guards visible through the windows looked up, weapons trained on the ceiling, but no attack came. For 20 minutes, nothing happened at all. "Maybe it failed?" suggested one of the officers. As if in answer, a Vex soldier appeared at a 3rd-floor window. He was firing wildly behind him at something the cameras couldn't see. 3 more Vex joined him, all shooting at shadows. Then suddenly they all stopped, dropped their weapons and began clawing at their helmets as if trying to get away from something inside their own minds. "What's happening?" Volkov demanded. No one had an answer. The thermal imaging cameras showed nothing unusual. The motion sensors detected no movement except for the panicking Vex, yet something was clearly terrorizing them. Then, the hospital doors opened, and people began running out. Doctors and nurses, some injured but alive. They ran straight toward the human perimeter, away from whatever was happening inside. "Get medical teams ready," Volkov ordered, "and keep recording everything." By dawn, all 57 medical personnel held in New Delhi General had been rescued. Of the 30 Vex soldiers who had taken the hospital, 22 were found dead with no visible wounds. The other 8 were catatonic, their neural systems completely overloaded, and there was still no sign of the Reaper itself. Similar reports came in from around the world as more Reapers deployed. The pattern was the same everywhere. The Reaper pod would crash into an occupied hospital, there would be a period of quiet, and then Vex soldiers would begin to panic. Soon after, medical personnel would be freed. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Chung and Dr. Okoro watched the footage with a mixture of awe and horror. "I don't understand," said Admiral Chung. "How are they killing the Vex without weapons?" Dr. Okoro replayed a piece of footage from Sydney, showing a shadow that seemed to move on its own. The camera caught just a glimpse of a tall, thin figure, with unnaturally long limbs before it vanished again. "They're not just killing them," she explained. "The Reapers project a field that amplifies primal fears. For humans, it would trigger panic attacks or temporary paralysis. But the Vex, with their different neural structure, are experiencing something far worse. Their implants are overloading from the psychological stress." She pointed to another screen showing a Reaper carrying an injured nurse to safety. The figure moved with impossible grace, its features hidden by a smooth, blank mask. "They're not just killing, the tactical officer observed. They're prioritizing medical staff extraction. That's by design, Dr. Okoro nodded. The Reapers were programmed to value medical personnel above all else. Their primary directive is to protect healers. The officer looked troubled. But they're still terrifying. I don't understand how they're breaking the Vex so completely. The Vex have a hive-adjacent psychology, Dr. Okoro explained. They're more connected to each other mentally than we are. When a Reaper projects fear, it spreads through their neural network like a virus. Each affected Vex amplifies the signal to others. In London, something new happened. A Reaper was caught on camera for more than a few seconds. Security footage showed it materializing from the shadows behind 3 Vex guards. The alien soldiers collapsed without the Reaper touching them, their neural implants overloaded simply by the Reaper's proximity. But instead of disappearing again, the Reaper turned to face the camera. Its mask was featureless except for 2 dark eye slits. It tilted its head, studying the camera for a moment. Then it spoke, its voice a whisper that somehow carried clearly over the recording. We protect those who heal. We hunt those who harm them. Then it was gone, moving faster than the camera could track. On the Vex command ship in orbit, Supreme Commander Vexus watched the reports with growing alarm. The attackers were unlike anything the Vex had encountered on other worlds they had conquered. They move like shadows, reported a terrified officer. They speak in our minds, telling us our deepest fears. They know things they shouldn't know about our past, our culture. Another officer played a recording of a whispered voice speaking perfect Vex language. Your ancestors called them void walkers, the nightmares that hunt between stars. You fear the dark, because we have always lived there watching. Vexus felt a chill. That was an ancient Vex myth, a story told to children about monsters in the dark. How could these humans know it? The ground forces are requesting immediate extraction, said his second-in-command. They're saying the shadows are hunting them. Vexus was not a coward, but he was practical. This attack was not proceeding as planned. The humans had deployed some kind of psychological weapon that specifically targeted Vex neural patterns. It was time to adapt. Order a temporary retreat from all medical facilities, he commanded. Move our forces to military targets instead. These, whatever they are, seem focused on protecting healers. If we leave the healers alone, perhaps they will not follow. But it was already too late. Within hours, reports came in of Reapers appearing wherever Vex forces gathered, regardless of proximity to medical facilities. They materialized from shadows, whispered ancient fears, and left Vex soldiers either dead or broken. The pattern had changed too. The Reapers were no longer just extracting medical personnel. They were actively hunting Vex throughout cities, moving systematically through buildings, leaving terror in their wake. Within 48 hours of the first Reaper deployment, 7 major hospitals had been reclaimed. Within 72 hours, Vex forces were in full retreat across the globe, abandoning their carefully planned invasion to escape what they now called in their communications the shadow places. Humanity had responded to the targeting of their healers by deploying their darkest weapon, and the Vex were learning a painful lesson. Psychological warfare cuts both ways. 4 days after the Reapers were deployed, Commander Jackson Harris stood in the recaptured Boston General Hospital. The building still showed signs of the battle, bullet holes in walls, broken equipment, bloodstains that couldn't be completely cleaned away. But it was functional again, with doctors and nurses working to save lives. Jackson watched through the security feeds as something unexpected happened. A Reaper, he had learned this one was called 7, appeared at the emergency entrance carrying an injured Vex soldier. The medical staff paused for just a moment before Dr. Matsuda stepped forward. Bring him here, the doctor said to the Reaper, pointing to an empty bed. The Reaper, a tall figure with a blank mask and unnaturally long limbs, gently placed the wounded alien on the bed. Then it stepped back, watching as the human doctors began treating the enemy that had tried to kill them just days earlier. I don't understand, Jackson said to Dr. Okoro, who had arrived to study the Reaper's behavior. They're killing Vex efficiently in combat, but saving them afterward? Dr. Okoro's expression was thoughtful. The Reapers were programmed to value medical personnel above all else. They're learning from observing them, adopting their ethics. Is that intended? Jackson asked. No, Dr. Okoro admitted. But it's fascinating. They're evolving beyond their programming. This wasn't the only change in Reaper behavior. Reports came in from around the world of similar incidents. Reapers bringing injured Vex to human doctors, standing guard while treatment was provided, then returning to the hunt. In Paris, a Reaper had protected a team of paramedics from angry humans who wanted revenge against the Vex. In Cape Town, another had helped doctors set up a field hospital that treated both species. The Reapers were still terrifying to look at, still projected fear that made normal humans uneasy, but they were showing a complexity that no one had expected. 3 days later, the Vex launched a desperate counterattack. Their target was the Centers for Disease Control headquarters in Atlanta, the heart of Earth's medical research. If they couldn't defeat the Reapers, they would destroy the medical infrastructure they had originally targeted. The attack came at dawn, 3 Vex dropships landing directly on the CDC campus, deploying over 100 soldiers. But the Reapers were waiting. 3 of them stood on the main building's roof, unnaturally still until the moment the first dropship touched down. What happened next was recorded by security cameras and would later be studied by military tacticians around the world. The Reapers didn't attack immediately. Instead, they created a perimeter around the medical staff, getting them to safety first. Only then did they engage the Vex forces. But their tactics had changed again. Instead of the silent psychological attacks they had used before, they began speaking directly to the Vex soldiers, offering terms. "Leave this place and you will not be harmed," one Reaper announced in the Vex language, its voice carrying across the battlefield. "This is a place of healing. It is protected." The Vex response was immediate. They opened fire. The Reapers moved, like smoke between bullets, impossible to hit. But instead of killing, they created waves of targeted fear, precise psychological attacks that incapacitated rather than killed. Within 20 minutes, the entire first wave of Vex attackers lay on the ground, paralyzed by terror but alive. The Reapers moved among them, collecting weapons. When the second wave deployed from the dropships, a Reaper appeared before their commander. This one was different, taller than the others, with markings etched into its mask. "You still have a choice," it said. "We are not like you. We protect healers, but we can show mercy to those who surrender." The Vex commander hesitated, then raised his weapon. The Reaper didn't move as the shot hit its chest. It looked down at the wound, then back at the commander. "That was your choice," it said simply. What followed was unlike the previous encounters. The Reapers became merciless, moving through the Vex forces like a storm. None of the second wave survived. When the third dropship tried to flee, a Reaper somehow got aboard. The ship crashed 2 miles away. There were no survivors. The message was clear. The Reapers could be merciful, but that mercy had to be earned. In a secure medical bay in the Rocky Mountain facility, Admiral Chung watched as doctors treated a captured Vex commander. The alien had been brought in by a Reaper who had performed emergency field medicine to keep it alive for questioning. "You stabilized him?" Admiral Cheng asked the Reaper, who stood in the corner of the room, perfectly still. "Why?" "He has information," the Reaper replied, its voice barely above a whisper, "and the doctors wish to save him. We serve those who heal." The Vex commander regained consciousness an hour later. When it saw the Reaper standing nearby, it flinched and tried to move away. "The Shadow Walker," it said in broken English. "How can you be real? You are just stories to frighten children." The Reaper tilted its head. "We became what we needed to be. You made us necessary when you targeted our healers." Admiral Chung stepped forward. "We have questions." The Vex commander looked from the human to the Reaper, then nodded slowly. "I will answer. The Imperium was wrong about humans. We thought your compassion was weakness. We did not understand that it could create these. The Reapers were always our last resort," Chung said. "We never wanted to use them. Then we are alike in one way, the Vex commander replied. We also have a last resort, and now our supreme command has ordered it used. What do you mean? Chung demanded. The Vex's four eyes blinked slowly. The remaining medical prisoners are to be executed, all at once. A final attempt to break your resolve. The Reaper moved so quickly it seemed to teleport across the room. It stood over the Vex. Commander. Its blank mask just inches from the alien's face. Where? It asked, its whisper now a cold hiss. Where are they being held? The Vex commander told them everything. The location of a hidden base in the Rocky Mountains, not far from their current position, where hundreds of captured medical personnel were being held, including Dr. Elena Reyes. Within an hour, all 20 Reapers had converged on the area. Their behavior had changed again. The mercy they had begun to show disappeared entirely. For the first time, they coordinated their attacks, moving as a single unit rather than individual hunters. The Vex never had a chance. Within 6 hours, the entire Vex command structure on Earth had been systematically dismantled. The Reapers moved from location to location, freeing medical personnel and eliminating any Vex who resisted. In orbit, the alien fleet began emergency departure procedures as their ground forces reported the same message across all channels. They're coming for you next. The invasion of Earth had failed. The Vex had targeted humanity's healers, not understanding that this would awaken something far darker than the compassion they had witnessed for 3 years. They had learned too late that mercy, when pushed too far, has teeth. 1 week after the Vex fleet retreated from Earth orbit, an uneasy peace settled over the planet. The hospitals were running again. The dead were buried. The wounded were healing. But a new problem had emerged. What to do with the Reapers now, Doctor? Elena Reyes sat in a hospital bed in the Rocky Mountain facility, still recovering from her time as a Vex prisoner. Commander Jackson Harris hadn't left her side since she was rescued. They're outside again, she said, looking toward the window. Jackson didn't need to check to know she was right. The Reapers, 3 of them this time, had taken to watching over Elena since her rescue. They never entered her room, but they were always nearby, silent guardians in the shadows. They're protective of you, Jackson said. Dr. Okoro says it's because you're both a high-ranking medical officer and a former prisoner. They're fixated on your safety. Elena nodded slowly. I know. When I was in that Vex cell, I felt something watching from the darkness. I thought I was losing my mind, but it was them. They were there the whole time waiting for the right moment to get us all out. Outside the facility, public opinion about the Reapers was sharply divided. Many saw them as heroes who had saved Earth from alien invaders. Their image, the blank mask, the unnaturally long limbs, the shadowy presence, had become a symbol of humanity's unexpected strength. But others feared them. There had been incidents, civilians panicking in their presence, children having nightmares after seeing them, people reporting feelings of dread that lasted for days after a Reaper sighting. They were, after all, designed to project fear. The United Earth Security Council debated the issue for 3 days before reaching a difficult conclusion. The Reapers, while necessary during the crisis, posed too great a risk to remain active in peacetime. Admiral Chung delivered the news personally to Dr. Okoro in her lab. The Council has voted. The Reapers are to be returned to cryostasis. Dr. Okoro didn't look surprised, but she did look troubled. That may not be possible, Admiral. What do you mean? Dr. Okoro pulled up a series of medical scans on her screen. The Reapers are showing signs of cellular degradation. The modifications we made to their bodies were never meant to be sustainable long-term. It was a failsafe I built into the program. Admiral, Chung studied the scans, trying to understand the medical data. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying they're dying, Dr. Okoro said quietly. All of them. They have perhaps 2 weeks before complete system failure. The news spread quickly through the top levels of government. The Reapers, Earth's saviors and most feared weapons, were breaking down. In 2 weeks, they would be gone forever. What no one had anticipated was the Reapers' own reaction to this news. The first sign that something unusual was happening came when all 20 Reapers converged on Boston General Hospital. They didn't enter the building. They simply stood outside, perfectly still, as if waiting. When Dr. Elena Reyes arrived for her first day back at work, they formed an honor guard for her, lining the path to the hospital entrance. As she passed, each one bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that sent chills down the spines of onlookers. Inside, Elena found a message waiting for her on her computer. It had no sender, but she knew immediately who it was from. "We request an audience with the Security Council. We have studied the Vex extensively. We have a proposal before we expire." The message was signed simply, "Silence, First of the Reapers." 24 hours later, a highly unusual meeting took place. The Security Council gathered in their chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains. For the first time, a Reaper was permitted to address them directly. Silence was taller than the other Reapers, its mask engraved with symbols that Dr. Okoro recognized as medical runes from ancient cultures. It stood perfectly still in the center of the chamber, somehow managing to look both terrifying and dignified. "We thank you for this audience," Silence began, its whisper voice somehow carrying to every corner of the room. "We know our time is limited. We have accepted this. It was part of our creation, to serve and then to fade." Admiral Chung leaned forward. "You wanted to make a proposal?" "Yes," Silence nodded. "The Vex homeworld is not destroyed as they claimed. It exists, 16 light-years from here. Their fleet has returned there." This revelation caused murmurs among the council members. The Vex had lied about being refugees from a destroyed world, another deception in their plan to infiltrate and conquer Earth. "How do you know this?" asked the Secretary General. "We learned much from the Vex we encountered," Silence explained. "Their minds were open to us when we connected with them. Their homeworld deploys planet-wide medical technology. Their assault on Earth was born of desperation. Their central medical AI is failing, causing a cascading biological collapse in their population." Dr. Okoro frowned. "Are you saying they attacked us to steal our medical knowledge?" "Yes." Silence replied. "They believed it would be faster to conquer us and take our medical technology than to ask for help. Their species doesn't understand the concept of mercy as humans do. They saw your willingness to help them initially as weakness." Silence paused, then continued. "We have a proposal. Allow us to take a ship to the Vex homeworld. We can repair their system." Admiral Chung looked skeptical. "You want to help the aliens who just tried to conquer us?" "We want to finish what we started," Silence replied. "Humans wage war to achieve peace. We were created only for the former. Allow us to attempt the latter before we expire." Elena, who had been invited to the meeting as the most senior medical officer to interact with the Reapers, spoke up. "How would you repair their system, and why would they let you?" Silence turned its blank mask toward her. "Their approach to medical technology is fundamentally flawed. They linked all their medical facilities to a central AI that now has corrupted code. We can rewrite this code. As for why they would let us, they wouldn't have a choice. Our approach would be necessarily traumatic for them." The implications were clear. The Reapers would force their way to the Vex homeworld, using the same psychological warfare tactics they had deployed on Earth. "Why help them at all?" asked someone. "After what they did to us?" Silence was still for a long moment before answering. "Because we have learned from watching your healers. Medicine is not only for those who deserve it, but for all who need it." The Vex population includes billions of civilians who had no part in the invasion. They are suffering. The council debated for hours. In the end, their approval was reluctant but unified. The Reapers would be given a ship, the UESC Mercy, retrofitted as an assault carrier, and allowed to attempt their mission to the Vex homeworld. Dr. Elena Reyes volunteered to go with them. "They need medical supervision," she argued when Jackson protested, "and someone should bear witness to whatever happens there." The night before their departure, Elena found Jackson in their quarters, staring out the window at the stars. "Why are you going?" he asked quietly. "After everything the Vex did to you, to us?" Elena stood beside him, her hand finding his. "Because," she answered, "even nightmares deserve someone to bear witness to their sacrifice." The UESC Mercy departed Earth orbit the next morning, carrying 20 dying Reapers and a small crew of volunteer medical personnel toward the Vex homeworld. They were expected to arrive approximately 2 days before the Reapers' cellular degradation reached critical levels. Whether they would return was anyone's guess. 3 weeks passed with no word from the UESC Mercy. Earth began to heal from the Vex invasion. Hospitals were rebuilt, cities were repaired. Life slowly returned to normal. But the silence from the Mercy weighed heavily on everyone. Especially Commander Jackson Harris, who had remained behind on Earth at Elena's insistence. "Someone needs to be here if things go wrong," she had told him before leaving. "Someone who understands both sides of this." Jackson spent his days in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at the empty communication channels, waiting for any sign from the ship carrying his wife and 20 dying Reapers to an enemy homeworld. On the 23rd day, long after the Reapers should have biologically failed, a signal appeared. "We're receiving a transmission," called the communications officer. "It's the Mercy." The message was simple. "It is finished. Returning to Earth." 2 days later, the UESC Mercy appeared in Earth orbit. The ship broadcast a single request for permission to land at Vandenberg Spaceport in California. When granted, it made a perfect descent through the atmosphere, landing gently on the runway as if it had never been in battle. For 24 hours, the ship sat in quarantine. Scanners showed only human life signs aboard, no Reapers, no Vex. Finally, the quarantine doors were opened and the human crew emerged, led by Dr. Elena Reyes. Jackson was there, breaking all protocol by running across the tarmac to embrace his wife. "What happened?" he asked, holding her tight. "Where are the Reapers?" Elena looked exhausted but somehow at peace. "It's a long story," she said, "and one I'm only allowed to tell certain parts of." The debriefing was classified at the highest levels, attended only by the Security Council, Admiral Cheng, Dr. Okoro, and key military personnel. Elena and the medical crew who had volunteered for the mission sat at the center of the room. "The Reapers are gone," Elena began simply. "But not in the way we expected." She explained how the UESC Mercy had arrived at the Vex homeworld, a blue-green planet orbiting a yellow star. The Vex defense fleet had moved to attack until they detected the presence of the Reapers on board. Then, strangely, they had backed off, allowing the ship to approach. "Silence told me they were projecting fear at maximum range," Elena explained. "The Vex who had encountered them on Earth had spread stories. The entire fleet was terrified of them." The Mercy had been permitted to land near the Vex Central Medical Facility, a massive structure at the heart of their largest city. The Reapers had deployed, moving like shadows through the Vex defenses, which fell away before them. "They didn't kill unless they had to," one of the medical technicians added. "They used fear as a weapon, but they were selective. They cleared a path directly to the central AI core." What happened next was where the story became strange. According to Elena, the Reapers had surrounded the massive computer system that controlled all Vex medical technology. But instead of destroying it, they had found a way to interface with it. "Silence explained their plan to me just before," Elena continued. "The Reapers were dying. Their cellular degradation had reached critical levels. But their consciousness, the programming and neural patterns that made them what they were, could be preserved." Dr. Okoro leaned forward. "They uploaded themselves into the Vex system?" Elena nodded. One by one, they connected to the AI. Their bodies failed moments after each transfer, turning to dust. Silence was the last to go. Its final words to me were, "We were created to be your darkest weapon. We became something more by observing your healers." The room was silent as everyone processed this information. The Reapers, humanity's nightmarish last resort, had not simply died. They had transformed, becoming part of the very system they had been sent to repair. "And the Vex?" asked Admiral Cheng. What was their response? Initially chaos, Elena replied. Their central medical AI had been taken over by entities they feared. But then something unexpected happened. The system began to function again better than before. The biological collapse in their population began to reverse. The Reapers had kept their word. They fixed the system. But they also changed. It, added Dr. Liu, another volunteer who had gone on the mission. The Vex medical ethics were completely rewritten. Their approach to medicine had been strictly utilitarian, treating only those deemed valuable to society. The new protocols prioritized all life equally. 1 month later, a Vex ship appeared in Earth orbit. Unlike the warships of the invasion, this one was smaller, marked with blue symbols that universal translators identified as meaning healer or medicine. The ship requested permission to send a small delegation to Earth. After careful consideration, the Security Council agreed, with heavy security measures in place. The Vex delegation landed at a neutral site in Geneva, Switzerland. They brought advanced medical technology and a formal apology for the invasion. Their spokesperson was different from the Vex that humans had encountered before. Its skin marked with ceremonial patterns that some observers noted looked strangely similar to the markings on Silence's mask. "We have come to make amends," the spokesperson announced in perfect English, "and to propose a medical and cultural exchange program. We have much to learn from each other." Later, in a private meeting with Dr. Reyes, the Vex representative revealed a deeper truth. The Reapers hadn't simply repaired the Vex medical AI, they had become part of it, guiding the aliens toward a new understanding of interspecies ethics. They had achieved what neither diplomacy nor conventional warfare could, forcing empathy through guided fear, then transforming that fear into respect. "They speak to us," the Vex admitted. "Not with fear now, but with wisdom. They show us what we could not see before, that healing is not a weakness, but the greatest strength." 2 days later, the Vex-Human Medical Accord was signed, establishing the framework for peaceful relations between the species. The document's preamble contained a phrase in both languages that would become famous throughout known space. "From the darkness of war, we harvested wisdom, that even nightmares can dream of peace." In a small private ceremony after the signing, Elena and Jackson were taken to a specially prepared chamber in the Vex medical ship. Inside was a neural interface that allowed temporary communication with the evolved consciousness that had once been the Reapers. "We still protect those who heal," came Silence's familiar whisper voice, now existing only as data in the system. "But now we heal ourselves as well. There is symmetry in this. We who were made to harvest fear now cultivate its opposite." Jackson, who had created them with a desperate authorization code in a moment of rage and fear, found himself speechless before what his decision had ultimately created. "Did you know this would happen?" he finally asked. "Did you plan this from the beginning?" There was a pause before Silence answered. "No. We were weapons, nothing more. But your healers showed us another way. We observed. We learned. We evolved." Elena touched the interface gently. "Will we speak again?" "We will always be watching over those who heal," came the reply. "In that way, we remain what we were created to be, protectors of mercy in a universe that too often lacks it." In classified archives buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Reaper program was officially designated completed with unexpected success. Dr. Okoro's final report contained just one personal note. "We created monsters to fight monsters, never imagining they might transcend us all.